here with the wonderful Becky, who enrolled in my acne clinic a little while ago when she was really struggling with her acne. And as you can see today, she is clear. So I wanted to have a little chat with her so that you can see that it's very possible for you too. So Becky, thank you so much for joining me today. Do you want to start off? Do you want to start off just by telling me a little bit about the acne symptoms that you had when you first started to work with me?
Yeah, so I was experiencing consistent breakouts all around this area here, mainly here and here, which were kind of yeah, just like the acne spots, which I obviously understood more as under the skin ones. They were quite painful, quite swollen, very red, very, very visible, would take a long time to heal. And before one healed, another one would arrive. So it was just consistently one after the other.
Yeah. And I remember when we first started working together, you'd tried to reach out for help quite a lot. So specifically, you'd worked with your doctor, is that
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And
Yeah.
you tried some courses of antibiotics and the pill. Can you tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about that experience and if you saw improvements and the experience you had with your doctor?
Yeah, it was probably the normal route that most people will go to. I first started having acne. It was soon after I'd had my first child. So my first port of call, as most people, would go and see their doctor. It was very obvious what my symptoms were. So yeah, I went through. It was probably 12 to 18 months of rounds of antibiotics, topical treatments. Sometimes I would see quite a big improvement quite quickly. But as this cycle kind of went on, I would just see it coming back. But every time it came back, it would come back a lot worse. It was quite uncontrollable. I'd return to the doctors and they were kind of running out of options for me. And at that stage, I was starting to independently look at what I was using, kind of medicine wise, topical. And it was kind of becoming obvious that it wasn't going to help. And actually, it was potentially making my symptoms worse. I was quite confused, if I'm honest, because the doctors didn't really seem to have an answer. But I thought, I didn't know what the cause was. I was just giving treatment after treatment, which was making it worse. So I just started to branch out, listen to some podcasts. I thought there's got to be another way, but my doctors unfortunately didn't have any other options apart from um, upping my medication, which seemed quite drastic, and it was getting harsher and harsher. And when it did reoccur, it was coming back really bad. So I just thought I've got to stop this cycle, and I just started to look elsewhere for information.
I think your experience is quite common really when you go to the doctor for help, and we have a great healthcare system here in the UK, but the challenge is that we're more focused on what medication can be paired with
Yeah.
a set of skin symptoms instead of looking a little bit more deeply to the root cause. So that experience is definitely a very common one that you had as well before you came to work with me. So fast forward from that a little bit, and then we discovered each other. I think you listened to a podcast that I was on.
Yeah,
And
I
then
did.
we had a call together and you decided to enroll with me. So do you want to talk a little bit about the process we went through and how you saw your skin health change? So we worked together over a period of 6 to 9 months. And how did you see your acne symptoms changing during that time?
Well, I think the first most important point is I obviously came into contact with you. I called you. I can't remember how I think we spoke over the phone. And the thing that made me really, really interested in working with you is because, first of all, you're telling me it's not a quick fix. And the main thing was you were going to look at the cause rather than treat symptoms. And that was the thing that I was looking for a long time. So you did always mention straight away, this is not an overnight fix. We're going to kind of cure from the inside out. It's going to take a while to repair and cure, but it's going to be long term rather than short term. It's going to be no prescriptions. So that was absolute music to my ears. And one of the first things I remember you spoke to me about and asked me for was a food diary, which again, I was just so delighted to hear someone, let's look at other things in your lifestyle and diet that could potentially be triggers for it. So I remember doing food diaries. We worked through nutrition. You worked through topical, what I was using at the time, what potentially I could change straight away, make some initial changes. They were kind of steady, but some things I remember you saying, we need to remove these. Just looking at what could be my personal triggers, because they're very personal to everyone, which I learned very quickly. And it was just so refreshing for someone to look at, this isn't overnight, but we need to look at what's causing this rather than just keep putting things on the skin to kind of try and get rid of the symptoms. And I just remember it being a bit of a roller coaster ride. Looking at things in my diet that I had no idea would be triggers. I kind of thought, and I think I did have a relatively fairly healthy diet and lifestyle, but obviously it was getting those triggers that were absolutely causing me personally some skin issues. And I just remember my skin did start to recover. I would have then other smaller breakouts, which I remember getting quite stressed about, getting in contact with you about it, and you were quite calming. You just said, this is kind of the road to recovery. This is what's to expect. Keep on doing it. We're going to get to the cause eventually. And I just remember probably I had in my mind it was going to be kind of 6 months, a year, but I remember about 3 months for me personally was when I started to see a consistent change and my skin seemed to be recovering. Because I'd made those long-term changes in my topical treatment and my diet. And I just remember things starting to calm down. That's the best word, is my skin started to calm. It wasn't so angry. And then these changes just continued. And then I started to identify the things which I knew would trigger me more. And ever since then, I've just, gosh, a year or so afterwards, now, I think from when we started. And now I'm so much more informed of my personal triggers, and touch wood, I pretty much know how to repair my skin. It's so resilient. It's so resilient. I can afford to have, things in my diet every now and again that's not going to cause a problem. My skincare routine is super simple. Just in fact, the skin over my whole body has changed. It's just completely resilient. It's completely different texture. It's so much healthier. I do remember it being a long journey, but that journey's just continued to progress. And my ideas about my personal skincare is just so much better, to the point I'm almost glad I had acne, which is weird.
I always love hearing you tell me that. Just, it's the silver lining, isn't it? It's your body trying to teach you something, and you're better equipped now for having had that journey. And I'm so glad you actually mentioned that. We did finish working together kind of probably over a year ago now, because one of the questions I get asked a lot, or I have women tell me that they worked with somebody before and they saw positive changes, but as soon as they stopped working with them or stopped taking certain supplements, then their skin reverts to how it was before and they're breaking out again. So I love that you mentioned that, because we can see that you're consistently clear, and it's been over a year since we finished working together. So yeah, I think that's great to see. And what would you say to anybody considering working with me in the acne clinic? Did you actually personally have any hesitations about going ahead, and what were they?
I think I was in a point where I was absolutely desperate, and I'd already started to research alternative methods of treatment rather than, like you say, our NHS is amazing, but for this particular problem it wasn't helping, it was actually making it worse. I think the hesitancy is there's so much information out there, there's so many sources, and you don't know what's genuine. But I think it was quite apparent that I needed to go elsewhere. I remember listening to a podcast, and I remember the information that you were giving on the podcast where it's all very individual and personal treatment. It's a one-to-one. And I remember you talking about external and factors that are going to sort the cause. And I just remember that word coming up time and time again. So I didn't hesitate to get in contact with you as soon as I'd listened to that podcast, because I thought, this looks like the route that I really want to go down. And I think straight away, it was really clear you were very, very honest about what situation we're in. And it was almost about, this healing is going to take a few months. I'm not going to give you a prescription to suddenly change things. You've got to put the work in, you've got to commit. But you were so confident that it was completely resolvable. And once we'd found my individual independent causes and triggers, it was then going to be, you need to work with me for a while, but after that, you will be able to control this independently. You won't need to have treatment forever. And it was completely true. And it almost informs you so much. And it gave me a real kind of inspiration to just keep learning. And it's just given me a whole new world of information about me personally, and general, good things for the skin on the inside and the out. But yeah, I wasn't really hesitant. And very, very quickly, I was confident that I'd made the absolute right decision. And it's been one of the best decisions I think I've ever made, because
Oh, thank you.
it's continually taught me things. And like you say, we stopped treatment one-to-one quite a while ago, but my skin has continued to improve because I've taken the information you've given me and I've continued to build on it and experiment with things as well. Like, I think I've had like one or two spots, I wouldn't even call them breakouts, in the last 18 months. But straight away, I've been able to trigger that. I've been able to, sorry, identify the trigger, change things, experiment with things myself. It's helped my monthly hormone balance is so much better. Again, it was so interlinked with the problems I was having before. But
Mhm.
yeah, hesitancy was minimal because I was pretty confident after listening to you speak. I'd chosen the right route, and very quickly, I was confident in the route that you took me down, and the questions and the things we were experimenting with were exactly what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I knew when we first spoke together on the free consultation, I knew we'd be a great fit because you also wanted to get to the root cause and you didn't want a quick fix. So
Yeah.
that's how I knew we'd be perfect to work together. So I remember one last question for you. I remember when we first started working together, you told me that, for example, it was acne was always on the forefront of your mind. And if you were out, it was always, if you were out having a meal, you were thinking about popping to the toilet to check if
Yeah.
the concealer was still covering breakouts. And how do you feel now about your skin?
Oh, it's just, oh, sometimes I almost forget how bad it was. And I remember you used to ask me to send in pictures of my progress, and I kept a folder. I kept that folder of photos on. I've got a hard drive that I keep it on, and every now and again it will come up, and I'll look at them back, and I forget how bad it was.
Mm.
And but it does very quickly remind you of how it completely ruled your everyday life. And as a woman as well, yes, you can wear makeup, but it was a constant, I had to pack certain things when I went out in the day, and I was training in the gym, and I still had to have stuff on my skin because I was so conscious, and it ruled everyday life. And weirdly, it was kind of I'm sure it's in one of the many lockdowns that we had, and there was a time where I was actually quite glad I didn't have to go anywhere.
Mm.
And then starting to having to leave the house and see people, and it got quite bad. It was devastating. It was
Mm.
absolutely devastating. And I couldn't think of anything else. From the minute you wake up, from the minute you go to bed, you're constantly. So when you speak to someone face to face, you're, rather than listening to them, you're actually seeing, are they just looking at my skin?
Mm.
But whereas in now, I do remember because I'm always conscious of it, and I'm always aware of never wanting to go back there. But some days now I completely forget about it. I don't even notice. And I will rarely wear makeup, which was never a thing. I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning without putting something on. But sun cream and a bit of something to moisturize my skin. And it's just, I've been on quite a few holidays this year, and being able to go out in the sun and being on a beach and be with my son and my husband, and just it's not even in my head. And occasionally I'll kind of catch myself in the mirror going to the toilet, and I just have a moment of like, my skin is just completely clear. There's nothing on it at all, and there hasn't been for ages, and I've no worries something's going to happen. And the skin on my arms and my legs, I notice it's a lot smoother. It's quite emotional because it was such a hard time to go through. But every now and again you just remember the journey you've been through, and like, this is it now. Every single day it's clear. I don't even get monthly breakouts. I don't even get that anymore. It's just the same all the time. And I can wear makeup when I go out. I don't have to wear anything. I can walk out the door with nothing on my skin. And I honestly don't think that's happened. Gosh, I can't years. I'm talking 10 years, 10 plus years since I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
It's absolutely life changing, and it's life changing because now I feel 100% in control myself, without any needs for anything apart from the information I've now been given and learned, built on. It's an absolute, it's life changing. I know it sounds really dramatic, but it's absolutely life changing for a girl, for a woman, anyone, man, men, boys, anyone who's got this thing, which is the first thing people see when they look at you. It's just life changing. I can't even tell you. It sounds really dramatic to say that, but yeah. But I'm also like weirdly glad I had it because I've learned so much, and I now know that I can have. I just feel like completely back in control of everything, and
Yeah.
it literally makes me smile from the inside. I love it. I'm so
Yay.
much happier.
Feels like freedom, and I completely
Yeah.
relate that life-changing feeling because I've had acne myself in the past, which is why I know how it can impact you emotionally, and also why I want to say thank you so much for being so open to talk about your journey today, because I know that acne is something that people can feel very embarrassed about, and it's a subject that people don't always openly talk about. So
Yeah.
I know that hearing you speak today is really going to help other women out there struggling with acne. So thank you
I
so
hope
much,
so.
Beccy.
I really hope so. And people speak to me now, and I'm quite open about it. I can talk about it, or when I had really bad acne, and they're like, "You had acne? I'd never noticed at the time, but you wouldn't know now." And I'm like, "Yeah, I almost want to talk to everyone about it because it's one of those things that is horrendously embarrassing,
Mm.
but you can learn so much. And like you say, it's your body's way of telling you something's not right.
Mm.
Get some help."
Yeah, it's your body's way of screaming at you. It can't
Yeah,
voice it, but it's definitely showing us. And yeah, I'm
yeah.
so honored to have been by your side in the journey. So thank you very much, Beccy.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I'm so glad I found you.